What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 15 of Film Time with Fava, brought to you by the Fired Up Network. I'm all ready to get into this episode, and I hope you at home or wherever you're watching or listening from are as well. So I know last week I said that I would be ranking a fan's top 10 movies, most of which were sports movies. Not gonna lie, I've been a little busy first 2 weeks back at university. I haven't been able to I haven't gotten around to watching all of them yet. So I don't feel it really fitting to rank these movies, most of which I haven't seen in a while. I just feel like that wouldn't be fair to me or you guys. So I figured I'd do something else this week just to give you guys a good episode and still do something that I'm really passionate about. And for that reason, as you know, my favorite film franchise of all time is Planet of the Apes. So I figured I would just rank all the Planet of the Apes movies that have been released. So there are, let me just check here, I believe 9 in total. Yep, 9 in total. So I'll just be ranking all of those. That includes the 2001 Planet of the Apes movie directed by Tim Burton, the reboot series starring Andy Serkis and for the most part directed by Matt Reeves. So those came out between, I believe, 2012 and 2017. And then besides that, of course, the original 5 movies: Planet of the Apes, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, and Battle for the Planet of the Apes in that original, I don't know what you call a 5-movie series. Close enough to a saga, I'll just call it that. But yeah, no, if you aren't already, add me on social media. Mainly on Instagram at Film Time with Fava. There I'll be posting fun clips, funny clips, dramatic clips, who knows, and updates on the show, among other things. My personal account is Favalicious on Instagram. Just see what I'm doing in life. And on Twitter, you can follow me at _Fav24. There I'll be posting clips and updates of the show as well. And of course, go follow Fired Up Network for all their shows. Go watch Film Time with Fava on there on all platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, you name it, we got it. All right, guys, now I'm going to get right into my list here with number 9, my least favorite Planet of the Apes movie. This shouldn't be a surprise. If you've seen this movie, you know it's not good. Planet of the Apes 2001, directed by Tim Burton and starring Mark Wahlberg, Tim Roth, Helena Bonham Carter, also known as Bellatrix Lestrange. Yeah, they're all in this movie. Also, Charlton Heston, the star of the original Planet of the Apes, makes an appearance as an ape this time, but not even that could save this movie. I've only seen this movie a few times, painfully, and it's just not good. They tried to, when they say don't mess with a classic, I think that's true in a lot of cases, but I feel like with Planet of the Apes, it can be done. You can reboot Planet of the Apes as seen through the new reboot trilogy, which in my opinion even rivals the original 5 movies. But in this case, they tried to reimagine the original Charlton Heston story, but kind of revamp it a bit for a more modern time, I guess. I think Tim Burton actually described this movie as not a reboot, but a modern reimagining. And I wish I could reimagine this entire movie and make it good, but I don't know if that's possible. So basically, it follows a lot of the same beats as the original Planet of the Apes film from 1968. You got Mark Wahlberg kind of playing the Charlton Heston Taylor role out in space. Something happens. He has to. There's actually real monkeys in this too, because the whole way that Mark Wahlberg gets sent forward in time is because he's trying to save this monkey that has hijacked a spaceship, and he goes through some wormhole, ends up on Earth in the year 3000 or so. I don't remember the exact year. But also, like the original Planet of the Apes, they use humans in ape makeup, rather than CGI like the new reboot trilogy has opted for, I guess, since the new reboot trilogy is done for now. But honestly, that's one of the great things about this movie is the ape makeup is some of the best we have seen in a Planet of the Apes movie, which makes sense considering this is a more recent film, 2001, recent enough. CGI was still, I wouldn't say in its infancy, but it was far from the Avengers Endgame level CGI we see today. So I think opting for the makeup approach for the apes was a good move for this film, and it was the part of this movie that I did enjoy the most. But honestly, that's really where the compliments and pros for this movie end. The story's weird. The performances are not great. Mark Wahlberg as the lead character, I like Mark Wahlberg as an actor now, but I feel like this was very early in his career, and he just didn't have the confidence in this role. You could tell the writing wasn't great. There's all these corny lines, like where they're at the dinner table and the head ape General Thade opens Mark Wahlberg's mouth and starts screaming, "Is there a soul in there?" And there's just some really weird scenes. Like there's a monkey sex scene where they're like doing some big howling. It's just really weird, and they're swinging from chandeliers. It just kind of takes away from the fact that this is supposed to be like a sophisticated ape society. Meanwhile, they're just like swinging around everywhere. It's kind of weird to see, but yeah, no, this movie's not great. And the probably the worst part of this movie, in my opinion, is they tried to, if you remember in Planet of the Apes, there's the famous Statue of Liberty scene where Taylor realizes that he was on the planet Earth all along. Well, they tried to, what do you catch fire in a bottle? I don't know. I think that's catch lightning in a bottle. I don't know. Anyways, I don't know the saying, but they tried to kind of redo that. But this time, instead of the Statue of Liberty, it's an ape form. It's like an ape version of Abraham Lincoln, because basically Mark Wahlberg tries to get off the planet, but instead ends up going accidentally further into the future on that same planet because it's obviously Earth. And he sees the Abraham Lincoln Memorial, now the Ape-raham Lincoln Memorial, as people have coined it as online. And he kind of realizes, oh no, I was on Earth all along, and now Abraham Lincoln is my ruler. It just doesn't hold a candle to the original, and this movie is just not great. Tim Burton, love that him as a director, especially his animated stuff, but yeah, no, this is a huge flop, and that's why no one even touched Planet of the Apes again for another decade after this. And I'm kind of glad they didn't, because the reboot trilogy, as I've said, is so good. Mwah, chef's kiss. But I digress. Let's get into number 8, which is actually from the original saga, and that is the final movie from that original saga. I know the finale is supposed to be spectacular, but this really fell short. And this is Battle for the Planet of the Apes, directed by J. Lee Thompson, starring one of my favorite actors of all time, carried this franchise. Roddy McDowall, he played Cornelius in the original 3 movies. And then in 4 and 5, he played Caesar, who is the main protagonist in the new Ape movies that are coming out today. But obviously, Battle for the Planet of the Apes was, when I was growing up, I think I mentioned I got a box set of Planet of the Apes. I had only ever seen the first one before. So when I saw there was 4 more, I was kind of confused. I was like, oh, I thought this just ended after the first. I thought it just ended with Taylor seeing the Statue of Liberty. It was supposed to be like a one-off. But no, there's 4 more. And the 5th one in the series, kind of a letdown. When you hear the title Battle for the Planet of the Apes, you're expecting this like big conclusion, like an all-out war, humans versus apes. But what we get is this really lame fight at the end where like the humans are using like old school buses, which I guess is kind of cool because it shows like how far humans have fallen in this world. Because basically, to set this up, this takes place after a nuclear war that the humans have had. So the population is dwindling at this point. And like the humans that are left are radiated, like Chernobyl style. The conclusion of this movie, as I said, is a big battle. Humans are using like school buses, these old-timey weapons. They're wearing like old-timey plane goggles and stuff. It's a very lackluster ending battle, and you can tell that the budget on this film wasn't quite what it had been for the previous ones. And I guess that's why. Sorry, guys, I dropped my phone. 1 second. All right, now that I am done being the clumsiest guy of all time, let's get back to this. So, as I was saying, the budget was not as it had been. I think I heard about that in the documentary Behind the Planet of the Apes, which came with that box set. They said that on Battle for the Planet of the Apes, they had their smallest budget yet, but they also had to have this final battle. And you can really tell that they couldn't really afford to do that big of a final battle, which sucks. But then it also gave us a cool scene at the end where Caesar kind of has a fight with a gorilla to decide whether the apes will be peaceful with humans or go their separate ways and like basically kill all the humans, which is pretty intense. And it wasn't intense. Okay, the reason the fight was happening was very intense, but the fight itself, it's just Caesar and I believe his name's Aldo in a tree with knives, and they're just kind of looking at each other, kind of waiting to see who's going to take the first shot. And yeah, kind of lackluster. Highlights of the movie, I guess Roddy McDowall as Caesar is once again always welcome. He's a great actor. And then one of the actors in it, crap. Oh, Natalie Trundy as Caesar's wife. She's pretty good. Not very memorable, but yeah, you know. And the one guy who plays Virgil, who's the orangutan friend of Caesar, he's also very good. I forget the actor's name though, but you know, very good. But the movie itself is kind of a letdown, especially when you consider everything that preceded it, especially the 1968 classic Planet of the Apes. It just doesn't really hold a candle to that, and that's why it comes in at number 8. So then at number 7, we got Conquest for the Planet of the Apes. Now, I actually have a poster of this film on my dresser off screen there. And this is one that I actually really like. I think from this point on in the list, the films are actually like decent. Battle for the Planet of the Apes, and especially the 2001 Planet of the Apes films, are just not that great. But Conquest for the Planet of the Apes is really good. And it actually inspired a lot of what we see in the new Ape movies, because when we left off in Escape for the Planet of the Apes, which I will discuss later in this list because that's one of my favorites. After Escape from the Planet of the Apes, we're left with Caesar, who is the baby of 2 intelligent apes from the future, but he's now living in the past where his people are in cages, oppressed, being used as slaves, essentially. Yeah. So the whole premise of this movie is that dogs and cats, there was a plague that wiped out all the dogs and cats, so they weren't used as pets anymore. So people brought kind of monkeys in as their new pets, but then they started to realize, hey, these guys are pretty smart. Why not, instead of having them as pets, we use them as like essentially slaves and get them to do all our work? So when this film starts, we're in a society where apes are the people that work in these stores. Like apes are hair salon workers, apes are fixing your car, all this stuff. They're being taught to do this because humans are realizing just how intelligent these apes are. And Caesar, on the other hand, has been raised by this circus owner, played by Ricardo Montalban, famous for his role in Fantasy Island, and also as Junie and Carmen's dad, or grandfather, should I say, in the Spy Kids movies. But yeah, no, Ricardo Montalban, always great, always a great actor, one of my favorites. But yeah, so he takes Caesar out into the real world for the first time, and Caesar sees just how oppressed apes are. And from there, he joins the apes in their slavery, kind of, and then starts this rebellion. The humans get wind of it. They try and kill Caesar, but it's too late. Caesar leads the apes into the armory. They get the guns. This is the first time we see apes with like modern weaponry, like riot shields and stuff. And there's a big fight between the humans and the apes. The apes win. But then in the end, Caesar does decide that, hey, I'm not going to choose violence. Well, I mean, he kind of already did, but he basically says, yeah, like, I think we can all live in peace. Like, this tonight was just like our rise, sort of like rise of the Planet of the Apes. But he's saying, like, the final line of this movie is, he says, like, I believe it's, we will put down our weapons. Tonight we have seen the birth of the Planet of the Apes. And that was a really cool moment, just hearing him say, like, this is the birth of the Planet of the Apes. It really puts the whole series in perspective. The reason, though, why this movie is so low on the list is just because of the pacing of it. It moves really slow at times. Like the final battle is well worth it, but the lead up to that can sometimes be a little slow. Like it's a lot of just Caesar trying to fit in with the apes. A lot of Caesar like planning, but like we don't really know what he's planning. A lot of boardroom meetings with the humans and Ricardo Montalban, aka Ricardo. Yeah, and just also the lighting of this movie is really dark and dull a lot of the time, which is not something you expect from a Planet of the Apes movie where it's supposed to be these cool set pieces, whether it's nature or even like indoor set pieces like ones I'll talk about with Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which is a movie that a lot of people don't like, but for me it's one of the higher ones on the list. But yeah, no, so that's why Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, no matter how cool the poster is, because it is pretty dope, it shows all these apes like squaring up with humans. Yeah, no matter how cool the poster is, it has to come in here at number 7. But that's not to say it's not good. Still highly recommend watching any of these movies. Even the 2001, I feel like anyone who likes the series should watch. But let's get into number 6 now. And number 6 is Escape from the Planet of the Apes, which I mentioned previously. And this is directed by Don Taylor. It once again stars the GOAT, Roddy McDowall, and also his wife in the film, Dr. Zira, one of my favorite characters in the whole series, so iconic, played by Kim Hunter. Now, these two characters, Cornelius and Zira, were vital to the first 2 films of the series, but this is the film where it shifts from a story about the humans more to the apes, as Cornelius and Zira are now the main characters, having gone back in time to, well, modern at the time America. I believe it's in the 1970s. Yes, so around late 1970s, so maybe 1975, let's say, America. They come back in time to, and they're intelligent apes. Their intelligence is revealed. They're held before a court, and they kind of are welcomed in as celebrities in this society. But then everything changes when Zira gets pregnant, and also she is drugged by one of the humans in the movie to try and reveal her secrets. And she reveals that in her future, apes are the ruling class, and they dissect humans. They do tests on humans. They hunt humans. Humans are basically nothing in their society. And she basically reveals all this, and a lot of the humans are scared that with the birth of their baby, it could lead to an ape uprising, the one that she is foretelling that takes place in her present. So they don't want that. So it's basically determined that they need to kill this like baby monkey. So then it turns into this like chase, this like thriller kind of chase movie. They're trying to get away from the humans, all this. It's really cool. And one thing I really like about this movie is that at its heart, it is a love story. And that was another thing that they said in the Behind the Planet of the Apes documentary. When the director made this movie and they did the first screening, one of his associates walked up to him and said, "Hey, I think you made a love story." And then he was like, "Yeah, that's what I meant to write." And that's what it is. It's the most love story of all the Planet of the Apes movies. And I honestly really like this movie. I think it's really cool. I wanted a poster of this movie actually, because there's this really cool one where it's the apes in spacesuits coming out of the spaceship, and there's like all these cops around them, and it's really cool. But that poster is also dummy expensive, so I'm not buying that. I'm a student after all. But as I said, the performances in this movie by Kim Hunter and Roddy McDowall are awesome. Natalie Trundy, who in the next movie actually plays a monkey as Caesar's wife, is in this one as a female doctor, and she's also in Beneath the Planet of the Apes. So she's actually been in 4 out of the 5. She was in 4 out of the 5 original Planet of the Apes movies, which is the same amount as Roddy McDowall. So technically, she's like basically Roddy McDowall, even though she's not. That made no sense. All right, so let's get into, I believe now we are on number 5. Number 5? No. No. Yeah, no. Okay, we're on number 5, but I had them in the wrong order. So, well, no, all the previous ones were in the right order. Let me correct that. But this next one I forgot to put in the list, but this would be number 5. So number 5, we have Beneath the Planet of the Apes. which is one that is actually usually regarded as one of the worst of the Planet of the Apes movies. But I don't know whether it's just that I've seen it a lot or that it was like this is one of the ones I had on Blu-ray because I had the box set, but I originally like bought Escape and Beneath on Blu-ray before I got the box set. So I've seen this one and Escape a lot. And I'll admit, I'll be the first to admit this movie is pretty ridiculous, like the whole premise. So basically, where we leave off in the original Planet of the Apes, Taylor sees the Statue of Liberty, all this. This movie starts right up from where that one left off. They keep going down the beach, Taylor and Nova, and Taylor basically disappears. He falls into this mountain. It looks like some big optical illusion. There's like walls of fire and lightning coming down from the sky. Everyone's really confused. And that kind of sets up the whole premise of this movie, which is what lies beneath the Planet of the Apes, which ends up being this basically radiation ridden race of like mole people almost. Yeah, they're like their skin's all messed up. All this, they have like telepathic powers, which is how they created like these firewalls and made Taylor disappear. And their weirdest thing though is their god. So basically, they go to church every day, but instead of praying to a god per se, they have a giant nuclear bomb that they pray to. Yeah, and this thing could be detonated at any minute. So back to the movie itself, Taylor disappears. Basically, apparently, Charlton Heston was asked, "Hey, we're doing a sequel. You want in?" He said no. They said, "Okay, what if you like only have to show up in the first 5 minutes?" He agreed because he was like, "Okay, fine, whatever." But then they said, "And now get this is the best part. You get to blow up the planet at the end." That's right. This movie ends with Charlton Heston blowing up the Earth. It's absolutely insane. So when he heard that he got to blow up the Earth, his mindset was, "Oh, great, no more sequels. I get to blow up the Earth. That's a pretty cool way to go out. Let's do it." Unfortunately, there for him, anyways, there was a lot more sequels. He wasn't in any of them, but I guess his plan to kind of end the series with blowing up the world didn't really work out all that well. But no, this movie is cool. This has some of the most racial imagery I've seen because this took place during when a lot of the race riots in the States were going on at the time. And we can see actually this one in particular has one scene where the chimpanzees are protesting the gorillas and orangutans going to the human underground city to basically destroy it. They're protesting that, saying like, "Hey, we want peace," which is totally similar at the time to the anti-Vietnam protests. And they actually mentioned that again in the Behind the Planet of the Apes behind the scenes film I watched. They talk about how like in the what word am I trying to look for here? How relevant, how that's a simple word that I didn't know, how relevant that was at the time. And yeah, besides that, the action in this movie is pretty cool. Seeing like the mole people versus the humans. Honestly, a better fight than the battle we get in Battle for the Planet of the Apes at the end there. But yeah, no, Beneath the Planet of the Apes is really cool. The set pieces in the underground city, a lot of cool map paintings in the background. Like instead of actual backgrounds, they'll do a big like painting, which is actually what they did for the Statue of Liberty scene in the original movie. I feel like I'm rambling on a lot. But yeah, no, Beneath the Planet of the Apes is cool. We get a new character in Brett, played by James Franciscus, who's kind of Taylor's replacement. He's basically a Charlton Heston lookalike, but he does the job. He does a good job. It follows a lot of the same beats as the original. You know, the intelligent human gets caught. He escapes. They go to this city. Yeah, and it just goes from there. And then Taylor blows up the planet at the end. Fun times. Great movie. Could have easily ended the series there, but they didn't. And then obviously my previous film, Escape, came next. Well, guys, I made a boo-boo. I just realized I was supposed to put Beneath the Planet of the Apes before Escape for the Planet of the Apes. Okay, so I'm going to make that correction now. So Beneath the Planet of the Apes was number 6. Escape from the Planet of the Apes was number 5. In my head for a second, I was like talking about it, and then I said that the previous film, Escape for the Planet of the Apes, and I thought, I do like that one better. Why would I have put Beneath first? And I realized I didn't. I just said them in the wrong order. So yeah, in 6th we have Beneath the Planet of the Apes. In 5th we have. Sorry, my upper lip is sweaty. It's toasty. Is hot stuff in here, guys. Anyways, yeah. Beneath the Planet of the Apes, number 6. Escape from the Planet of the Apes, number 5. So now let's get to number 4, which is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And that is directed by Matt Reeves. Now, this may come as a surprise to some people because Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is widely considered, I'd say, if not the best, in the top 2 of the new Planet of the Apes trilogy. But for me, all of them are super close, but Dawn, I think, is my least favorite of them. It's really close. On any given day, it could be different. Don't get me wrong. I love Dawn. I love Rise. I love War. But in terms of how likely I am to watch any of those, I'm always going to choose Rise or War first, just because I love them so much. But no, Dawn's amazing. It carries on the story of Caesar from Rise and his kind of his friend / rival Koba, his fellow chimpanzee, who kind of disagrees with Caesar on a lot of things. He was mistreated a lot more than Caesar was by humans. Caesar really only saw the good side of humans through James Franco's character in the first one. But Koba, on the other hand, has seen the bad side. He's been in labs his whole life. He's been abused. So he is a lot less forgiving than Caesar. And in this movie, we see the apes basically living in the forest, having their own society. The humans, on the other hand, have been ravaged by this pandemic, which is very relevant to today, the simian flu. So there's only these small pockets of humans remaining. And these humans that we follow, Gary Oldman, among others, they have been living in this kind of city dwelling for a while, but their electricity is going to run out soon. And one of their only options to get it back is to turn on this hydro generator, but it just so happens that the hydro generator is on the apes' land. So the humans have to go ask for it. One thing leads to another. Eventually they get permission. They turn their lights on. But then in the celebration of turning those lights on, Caesar gets shot, but not by a human, by Koba, because Koba sees this as an opportunity to take Caesar out and run society the way he wants to. He blames the humans for it. He basically falsely accuses them of shooting Caesar. And then the dawn of the new ape civilization begins as Koba storms the human city. Very violent. Has one of the coolest one shots, actually, this movie does, of Koba in a tank. Yeah, apes in tanks, man. It's friggin' dope. Matt Reeves does an amazing job in this. The ending is sick. We get an awesome fight scene between Caesar and Koba to decide who will rule this ape civilization. And then it ends not on a good note, though, because Caesar is alive. He does defeat Koba, but it ends knowing that the humans are now after the apes because of what Koba did. And Caesar and his group are enemies of the humans for good now. So the title kind of relates to that, in that it was the dawn of the new ape civilization in terms of the apes finally being free and living in the forest and having their own civilization, but it's also the dawn of this new era of war for them, which then sets up War for the Planet of the Apes. But War for the Planet of the Apes will be talked about not next, but after that, because at number 3, we have Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So the first movie in the new Apes trilogy, which a lot of people have as their third favorite, but I'm a sucker for a good origin story. For the longest time, Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire was my favorite superhero movie, just because I loved that origin story they did there. In the Lord of the Rings movies, the Fellowship of the Ring was my favorite because I loved that. Oh, sorry guys, I kind of need the chair that my laptop's on. Yeah, that was always my favorite because I love that origin story of the Fellowship of the Ring, like Frodo, Sam, Gandalf, how they all come together, Legolas, Gimli, Aragorn, you name it. Yeah, no, and this is no exception. It's a great origin story. As I said in a previous video, it draws a lot of comparisons to the story of Moses. You know, you got this central character, Caesar, who is raised as something he's not. He's raised with humans, kind of thinks he is a human almost in a way, just like how Moses was raised an Egyptian royal prince. Meanwhile, he was Jewish and his people were being enslaved and killed. Same with Caesar's. His people are being tested on through animal testing at labs. His own owner is doing the testing. His own owner, James Franco, is one of the people at this lab, just like how Moses' father, Pharaoh, was one of the people feeding the Jewish children, Jewish babies, to crocodiles or alligators, whichever. Still horrible either way. But yeah, major comparisons. And if there's anything we learned from the story of Exodus, is that it just works on screen, as we saw in Prince of Egypt. No different here. Obviously, this isn't exactly the same as Exodus, but lots of comparisons can be drawn. The I didn't mention with Dawn, but the thing that this new Apes trilogy just does so well is the visual effects. It is a crime that none of these movies ever won Best Visual Effects. I remember the year Dawn got nominated, they were up against Interstellar. So it's still crazy though. Even with how good Interstellar was, like, you gotta admit that these movies just have some of the best CGI and some of the best motion capturing. Like the way they're able to take Andy Serkis's amazing performance. Also, how did he never win an Oscar at all for these films? I don't even think he was nominated. Like, I feel like people underappreciate it just because it is a Planet of the Apes movie. It doesn't seem like it should be like high cinema, but acting as if you were an ape, a talking ape, no less. I mean, there's no reference for that in nature. Like, apes don't talk. You need to create your own performance, and Andy Serkis does that expertly here. He does it well in every movie, but in this origin story, he really captures that young Caesar quality, like kind of unsure of himself, angry, of course, when he finds out the horrible truth of his people. And then as the courageous leader in the end, when he leads his people to that promised land like Moses did, except in this case, he leads them across the Golden Gate Bridge to the redwoods outside of San Francisco so that his people can be free. And yeah, this movie is just incredible. It deals with a lot of hard topics as well, like Alzheimer's. James Franco's father suffers from this, and we see him deteriorating throughout the movie. Also, as Caesar's relationship with James Franco deteriorates at the same time, and that's a really sad thing to see in a film, especially with like the prevalence of Alzheimer's and the toll it takes on a lot of families each and every day. And seeing that in a movie just really adds to the gravity of it. And yeah, just all that together. One thing I'm super happy about in this is that there's not a ton of fan service. We see a Statue of Liberty like call out one time when Caesar's playing with a toy of it, but that's about it. Draco Malfoy, the actor who plays him, I forget his name, but he is in it as the most annoying security guard at the animal sanctuary where Caesar gets put later in the, or I guess probably in the after the first act of the film. Yeah, he does another call out to the originals when he says, "To get your paws off me, damn dirty ape." That is also the greatest scene in this entire series, in my opinion, is when Caesar says no for the first time. So he's fighting Malfoy. I keep saying Malfoy, like there's wizards in this now. Yeah, he's fighting the actor who plays Malfoy. Malfoy swings the taser at him. Caesar catches his arm. Malfoy says, "Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape," which is a line that was said to Charlton Heston in the original Planet of the Apes movie. But I digress. And then Caesar catches the arm and just like looks him in the eyes and screams no. And then all of the apes in the sanctuary just start going nuts. They start like, ugh. Caesar just running around screaming no. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, whenever I see that, I'm just like, could you imagine being there? Like that must be like seeing the, ugh. Like that'd be like seeing the Declaration of Independence getting signed, like seeing the first ape to ever speak. That'd be dope. But sadly, I will never see that unless this happens in real life, which I have a theory that Planet of the Apes is actually going to happen in real life. But no, not up. So apparently, I don't know how to hold my phone today, guys. My bad. But I think that should be a sign that it's time to move on to the next movie. And the next movie is number 2, War for the Planet of the Apes, my favorite of the new Planet of the Apes movies. As I said, it is quite close when it comes to the new trilogy, but War is my favorite. Um, the beginning of War is insane. We see Caesar's family basically murdered. Not his entire family. He still has one son left, but one of his sons, one of them who was in Dawn for the whole movie, and they had this huge relationship with him and Caesar built up in that movie. He just gets murdered right off the bat alongside Caesar's wife by Woody Harrelson, who plays the colonel in this movie. He's kind of the leader of this compound of soldiers and people that are trying to take Caesar out, basically, trying to rid the world of apes. And yeah, that sets up this big journey for Caesar and some of the other apes where they try and find the colonel's compound where a lot of their people have been taken slaves. Actually, Caesar mainly goes on like a revenge tour to get revenge for his family, but in the process he leaves his people alone and they are taken by the colonel and are kept as slaves at the colonel's compound. So Caesar not only now has to get revenge, but he has to save his people. Sorry guys, I just need to use this tissue for a second. I like being drippy, but I don't like my nose being drippy. Yeah. But we get to see apes in the snow. That is very cool. This is the only one we get to see the season of winter, and it's pretty dope. We also get to see an ape named Winter, actually. It's an albino gorilla who I had high hopes for after seeing the albino gorilla in the trailers. But this dude is the biggest traitor of all time. Like, if this guy was in Among Us, he would be the imposter every time. He literally is the one that reveals to the humans where Caesar and them live and is the cause of Caesar's family getting murdered. So yeah, Winter the gorilla sucks. Big mistake trusting that guy. But I digress yet again. War for the Planet of the Apes then gets to the part at the compound where we get to see Caesar on his mission, but he gets captured and we see him at his lowest point, being tied to this pole every day. Real like Jesus imageries with him being tied to these poles and like not getting any food or anything. But then that just makes the victory so much sweeter when he gets out, defeats he actually doesn't even defeat the colonel because the colonel ends up getting the simian flu and can no longer speak, which then this movie does this so well of setting up why can the humans not speak in the original Planet of the Apes movies, and they reveal that the simian flu evolves past the point of where it had eradicated part of the human population to now leaving humans basically kind of dumb and mute. And we see that through Woody Harrelson at the end when Caesar goes to finally do the deed and kill this guy who had taken his family's life. He sees Woody Harrelson in his bed, just like rolling around aimlessly, can't talk, just kind of grunting and hissing and things like that. And it's really sad to see that, even though we know what this man has done to Caesar's family. But yeah, it's still sad to see, and it sets up well, like I said, why humans can't talk in the future of these films. And the saddest part, though, at the end, Caesar succumbs to his injuries. He was shot with an arrow during the final battle. And when he finally leads his people to the promised land yet again, this time to hopefully the one last promised land they will need, he succumbs to his injuries and he dies. And yeah, it was a really sad ending. I cried in the theaters watching it. It was a good bookend to that character of Caesar. I really didn't want to see him go, but I think the Apes will be left in good hands. Hopefully the sequels carry on his legacy. Oh, sorry, I kind of just hit the microphone. Rest in peace, Caesar. Even though he's a film character, Andy Serkis was the GOAT at playing that role. And that's why it's my favorite of the new trilogy. War for the Planet of the Apes. Oh, if I didn't mention, directed by Matt Reeves, like with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. He's also directing new Batman, which I'm really excited for as well. I love Matt Reeves' work on these movies, and from what I've heard, apparently the Batman's like really good, so I'm guessing he did a good job on that too. But guys, let's get into number one. And this should come as no surprise. Obviously, this is the only one left. I already said in a previous list that this is my favorite movie ever. and that is the original Planet of the Apes from 1968. Let me just check to make sure I got that year right. I usually get it right, but you never know. Yep, 1968, March 27th, directed by, I know it's produced by Arthur P. Jacobs. Yes, yeah, produced by Arthur P. Jacobs. I believe he was the one that kind of backed this project and really wanted it to happen. Even actually, it's directed by Franklin J. Schaffner, but I don't know if I've said this, but just the getting this movie made, apparently, from what I saw in the documentary Behind the Planet of the Apes. I know I've mentioned that documentary a lot. Highly recommend watching it if you haven't. But yeah, just getting the original Planet of the Apes made was a very hard task. They had to get tons of scripts written for it before they hit the nail on the head with the one they ended up using. But yeah, they took it studio to studio. No one wanted to touch this thing. They thought it was a weird story. They thought it couldn't be done with any kind of budget that was doable back then. Even the author of the book, Pierre Boulle, who wrote the original, which was called Les Planètes des Singes. Yeah, that's Planet of the Apes in French. He thought it was one of his lesser books that didn't really need to be made into a movie. He didn't really want to see it made into a movie. But nonetheless, Arthur P. Jacobs really believed that this movie could be made. And he got test footage done, sent that out to studios. They finally started to see that, hey, maybe this could work. They hired on the makeup artist who had actually previously worked with veterans making prosthetic limbs and things like that. They got a prosthetics expert to make the makeup and the prosthetic pieces for the apes in this movie, and it paid off because the ape makeup in this movie was revolutionary for the time. Actually, one of the only Oscars that a Planet of the Apes film has ever won was like a specially made award just for the makeup achievement on this first movie, and deservedly so, because it is amazing. These people literally look like apes, which is nuts, especially for the year 1968. Seeing makeup like this, it had never been seen before to this extent and used on this many people at once, and like it just allowed them to show emotion through the makeup. It was crazy. But besides the makeup, it's just an interesting story. Like, a human landing on an unknown planet. It's run by apes rather than humans. Humans are the poorest class there is. They're tested on. They're basically the animals in our world, are the humans in their world. And then just that big reveal at the end, like I said, that it was Earth all along. It really puts into perspective, we really need to take care of this planet, because you never know what could happen. And we need to stop having wars with each other because anyways, it just brings up all these like societal factors that we need to keep in mind, and it's all wrapped up in this sci-fi classic that shouldn't work, but it does. And the performances, like I said, Roddy McDowell and Kim Hunter as Cornelius and Zira are once again just incredible. This is probably their best showing, is in the original film. You get to see Kim Hunter, kind of a sympathetic ape who first notices Taylor's intelligence and wants to set him free. And then Roddy McDowell, her kind of skeptical husband, who eventually comes around. But he's just, his character is, I'd say he's the kind of the comic relief of this movie, but there's not much comic relief, but he does it well. And then Dr. Zaius, portrayed by the great legend Maurice Evans. He's one of the best parts of this movie. His performance as Dr. Zaius, as this leader of the scientists in this world. I believe he's the head minister of science. He basically runs all like the dissections and all that part of the ape society, and like their dissecting of the humans, I believe. I mean, not I believe, I know. But yeah, no, this is I talked about this at length in my favorite movies of all time list. Like, the movie's just amazing. The score of this movie, it's very eerie, has a lot of drums and like just weird instruments that you wouldn't expect. Sorry, I think my phone ringer's on here. Yeah, my phone's just interrupting this a lot today. But no, that is, as I've said, Planet of the Apes is my favorite movie, the original one. I love all of them so much. Yeah, they're just great. but this first one from 1968, it'll just always have a special place in my heart, just because I've seen it so many times. Just the way I started watching it in grade 5, like it's so long ago at this point, it's still stuck with me to this day. Yeah, it's just an amazing film. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is close, but Planet of the Apes will always be number one, I think. Yeah. But anyways, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this list. I promise I'm gonna get to doing that fans top 10 list. It's just been a little hard lately to find the time to sit down and watch all those movies again. A couple of them, like Rudy, of course, I've seen before. The Hangover, I've seen. Wedding Crashers, I've seen. But there's like a few on there I haven't seen at all. Some I haven't seen in a really long time that I want to watch again. But it's just that I have class every day, so I'm gonna try and find time, whether it's next week or the week after, to do that list. But I promise you guys, I will eventually get to doing that list. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode, guys. As I said, go follow me on social media, on Instagram at Film Time with Fava. That's just for the clips and the updates on the show. Then you can follow me on my private, I keep saying private account, my personal account at Favalicious. There you can just see what I'm up to in life. Go follow me on Twitter at @A_Fab24. And also go fire. Yeah, go fire me. No, go follow Fired Up Network. They're the people that post all my shows for me. They post other great shows, whether you're into sports, entertainment, anything you're into, they got it. I did a live show with them a couple weeks back just about the Spider-Man trailer. That should still be available on there. You can go see me and Andrew Dixon talking about Spider-Man on there. Yeah, guys. Look forward to a lot of good shows in the future, not just from me, but just from everyone on Fired Up Network, to be honest. They're doing great things over there. So, guys, I'm going to sign off once again from London. I hope you like this new background. I'm really digging it. I want to try and get a better stand for my laptop. Yeah, I record these on Zoom and then transfer that into the template that you're going to see this on eventually. Well, I guess you're not going to if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But yeah, let me know what you think about this background. Let me know what you think about this episode, every episode, any suggestions you have for the show. I'm Anthony Fava, and guys, you already know what it is. This is as real as it gets.